Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. This week we visit a special livestock auction. Tomato season is here, and we have some tips on growing better fruit. And Charlotte County is the focus of this week's County Agricultural Close-Up feature.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from the Adams Family Farm in Charlotte County. Backyard chicken flocks are trendy these days, but Barry Ridgway says chicken owners are just a few of the customers at a unique livestock auction in Northern Virginia.
Why is there a traffic jam at the Fauquier Livestock Exchange on a Saturday morning? They're loading in all types of poultry, eggs, goats, rabbits, and more for the monthly poultry and small animal auction. This livestock market has been known for cattle and large animal auctions. There used to be small animal auctions as well, but they had faded into the past until recently.
There wasn't a local chicken sale in Marshall. You know, they used to have them here back years ago. And I just mentioned to my dad, I was like, why don't we start that up? You know, post-COVID, get people back in here, show them that the barn's open, you know, we have the space, and just give back to the community and get them in the barn and show them that this is here and it's more than just cattle.
The Fauquier Livestock Exchange has been part of the Marshall community since 1962. Today's auction is bringing in customers from near and far.
When we first started, we were very local, you know, Marshalls, but I get people out from, you know, Loudoun County, Southern Virginia. I had someone come from Virginia Beach once to come to this auction.
Cattle and horses are often sold at auction instead of directly to buyers. Not only are today's auction items different, so are the customers.
Totally different group of people. On your cow sales, you have your dealers, you have your buyers, you know, you have some farmers. This, you got everything from young couples to teenagers to kids wanting to start, buying the hatching eggs, hatching them out, growing them up. So it's like more family.
Often, sellers bring their small livestock to the exchange to give them a better chance at a comfortable life on a farm. And some horse owners will buy goats as companion animals to their horses.
This isn't a meat sale. This is more so for the families. You get a lot of people that buy the baby goats and then they raise them up, but we don't specifically sell them here for meat.
And if you're looking to stock your backyard chicken coop with Rhode Island Reds or something more unique, you'll find it here.
We get a lot of silkies, we get a lot of cochins, they have the furry feet, you know, just there's a lot more than your standard what you think of a chicken.
These customers are looking for something more than your typical birds.
Because it adds variety. So it looks cool, you want to add it to your flock. We get a lot of people that come specifically for the Polish are really popular as a fancy bird.
Other animals sold at this auction include quail, pheasant, peacocks, lambs, calves, and rabbits of all sizes. Just like at other livestock auctions, staff work closely with veterinarians and the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to ensure that animals passing through the barn are healthy and safe.
We haven't had any cases of the avian flu come through here. And then when the vets do come, I mean, they test the birds and they leave pamphlets and they just educate us. People, if they take their birds home and it has like snotty nose or its eyes swollen shut, you know, they let us know.
Agriculture officials stress that both new bird owners and experienced ones should take the proper precautions to minimize the chance of their flock getting sick. Isolation from migratory birds, clean bedding, and a fresh source of water are a must.
Covering your flocks is a good idea, so having them in a coop with like a cover over it. Make sure that the water source they're using is like a controlled water source, so they're not drinking out of ponds or streams or mud puddles, that you want them to have clean, fresh water in a container that is cleaned regularly. It's best practice to make sure that if you do borrow tools from another farm that you sanitize them before you use them on your own poultry flock. or just not do that and make sure you have your own equipment. You probably shouldn't visit other flocks, but if you have to, you completely sanitize before you visit your own flock. And it's especially a good idea to think about your shoes. Scrubbing them before you get back into the car is a good idea, or to wear boot covers before you get back into the car is a good idea, because you can actually put it on your floor mat and then it can get on the next pair of shoes you wear and get back to the flock that way.
When bringing home new birds, experts recommend at least a 3-week quarantine to protect your existing flock.
So that's the recommended time period. Work with your existing flock first and then with the new flock, because if you go to the new one and they have some sort of disease, you can transfer that to the existing flock if you work with them first.
So I do the health assessment. We try to look it over, and if a bird isn't looking like it's feeling good, then we send it back home, because we just don't want to risk, contaminating the whole barn.
The auction day morning is spent checking in the animals, doing the health assessments, and registering the bidders. And at noon, the live auction begins. First are the eating eggs, then the hatching eggs, then plants. On this particular day, it's pepper plants and large onions. Then on to chickens, then larger birds. And yes, sometimes they do get away.
Yeah, but we just catch it. The crowd helps. We've had a guy catch a pigeon mid-air, jumped out of his seat, caught it flying up to him. We've had piglets escape, and run through the barn, but they come back, we catch them, but everyone's pretty understanding about lending a helping hand.
Since the poultry and small animal auctions resumed in 2021, they've grown from around 300 items to about 3,000, charging 25% commission on poultry items and 15% on the other animals.
When you're selling goats for $150 a piece and the calves do around $200, you still get a good money out of it. It's increased profit, so it's another source of income, basically.
But for the staff at the Fauquier Livestock Exchange, it's about more than money.
It helps, but we're a community service. Without the community, we're nothing. So we're here for the community. That's who produces the product, brings it to us, we sell it. We couldn't do it without them.
For more information about the Fauquier Livestock Exchange, check out their website or Facebook page. And to learn more about the safety and health of poultry, visit the Virginia Agriculture Department's Avian Flu Resource page. You can also contact your local Virginia Cooperative Extension Office. In Fauquier County, this is Barry Ridgway reporting.
For much of the 20th century, many urban and suburban Virginia residents were not allowed to keep chickens in their backyards. Local zoning restrictions were meant to prevent farm noises and smells in high population areas. In the past decade, many localities have begun allowing small chicken flocks to return. Each Virginia community has its own guidelines concerning backyard flocks, but typically they prohibit roosters and only allow a few birds. Just like commercial poultry growers, backyard chicken owners must be mindful of bird health concerns and the risk of predators. But proponents like the idea of raising their own meat and eggs.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about tomatoes from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
Farming is a rewarding way of life, but it can also be full of challenges. If you or someone you know is struggling, call or text the AgriStress helpline at 833-897-2473. It offers 24/7 access to professionals who can support someone in need and help find mental health services in your community. Please make the call, because healthy farms depend on healthy farm families. That's 833-897-2474.
Tomato season is in full swing. Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension met with an expert for tips on how to boost your tomato plants from the ground up.
Well, hello and welcome. Today we're at the Fauquier Education Farm. We're here with the Executive Director, Mr. Jim Hankins. We're going to be talking about tomatoes today. Jim, this time of the year, people have got tomatoes in their garden.
Yep.
They've been growing for a little while, but they're thinking, they look good. Is there anything I can do to improve them? What maybe should I have done better? And I know you're growing a lot of tomatoes here, and they look really, really good today. Let's start kind of from the beginning. How do you get these to look so good, nice and green?
I have to admit, it had been a couple years. I skipped a couple years, and I was really surprised at how much my pH had dropped. So I did soil tests extensively throughout the farm. This particular little area, I believe the pH was down to 5.4, which is too low for tomatoes. Tomatoes want a slightly acidic soil, but not 5.4. And I followed Virginia Tech's recommendations on the fertilization. I didn't guess. You don't just go throw stuff at your garden. You do a soil test and read and follow directions.
So you take soil, like what we've got right here. We've got some soil in this bucket, and you took a probe maybe, or dug some soil up.
I just used a hand trowel.
Hand trowel, just like this, and just dug it up, mix it up, put it in a container that goes to being analyzed.
Go to your local extension office. They will have the boxes where you can send it off to Virginia Tech to the soil test lab.
Obviously, you followed the directions really well because these tomatoes look great. The color looks good, tons of blooms here, so I think you've got a good balance. In this case, so you put down some fertilizer before you planted?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, when we tilled this up, we put down fertilizer. Now, you know, we're mid-season now. If your soil test comes back that you need a lot, you can side dress some additional fertilizer. If your pH is way off, you know, you can side dress a little bit of lime, but that's not gonna, you know, you should do it beforehand. Okay. But fertilization, adding more compost if you don't want to use commercial fertilizer. Right. But, you know, I'm really fond of what a little bit of 10-10-10 fertilizer will do in the garden.
Oh, I can see it works really well. And I know you've got, in this situation, you've got a drip irrigation system.
Yes.
But some gardeners out there have soaker hoses and things. Yep. And they might even have one of these little devices that pulls fertilizer, a water-soluble fertilizer. They can add to the water and feed the plants.
There are a lot of folks who are gravity feeding from a tank, gravity feeding their water into their drip irrigation line. You can just add it to, you know, if you're collecting water in a rain barrel, there are fertilizers you can add to that water that will go in that, you know, will help give you that really good green.
I love your idea about really paying attention to what the soil test report says, because you don't want to go overboard. Sometimes you have a tendency to say, well, I'll just put more fertilizer on it.
And tomatoes in particular, boy, if you over fertilize, then you can get these massive vines with no fruit if you've got way too much nitrogen. So it's a delicate balance.
I gotcha. So these look good. You've done a good job with that. And I know sometimes it starts with the variety or the type of tomato. What have you got? What's this row right here?
These are Pony Express. It's a small Roma type that is super prolific. It come out, you know, as the name implies, it's going to come out really quick and early, Pony Express. So it'll be a huge, very quick fruit set. It's a determinate tomato. It won't live a long time. It will come up, have a concentrated fruit set, which means that it will bloom like crazy. You'll get a lot of tomato plants. And even if you're doing everything right, that plant is designed to die early. I'll be putting fall cabbage right here in this spot.
So determinate.
Determinate.
It's kind of a determinate amount of time that it sets fruit.
Yep.
And it's ready to go.
As opposed to an indeterminate, like most of your heirlooms, they'll keep on going until the frost kills them. You know, and there are really good hybrid indeterminate tomatoes that will just keep on going and going and going. They're going to be much bigger plants. I use 4-foot stakes for the determinate tomatoes. These indeterminates, we will have tomato lines all the way up, and I know for a fact that these plants will grow down one side as well. But they will stay in production into September, maybe even into October. Okay. You know, they're different varieties. These right here are yellow brandywine. Almost all of your heirloom tomatoes are going to be indeterminate. They're going to be much bigger plants, and their lifespan will be much longer.
Okay, makes perfect sense. So when somebody's thinking about their garden, they're going to look in the seed catalog, and it's going to tell them this is an indeterminate variety, this is a determinate variety, things like that.
Yeah, or if you're at the farmer's market buying seed packs, look it up before you buy it. You know, so often I've had people buy determinate tomatoes and wonder why they died midsummer.
Right, right.
Because it was supposed to.
Makes sense. They're both good.
Yes.
It's just you need to know which one you're growing.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for letting us come out today and talk a little bit about tomatoes.
I can't wait for my first BLT.
I got you.
Yep.
I love that too.
Yep.
Well, for more information about growing tomatoes, contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Coming up on Heart of the Home, mushroom bisque. I hope you'll stay with us.
Our cow, she walks into the barn and she gets milked. Milk's taken from her and put through a chiller. And that milk's taken from body temperature of a cow, which is about 102.5, and dropped to 35 degrees and put straight onto a tractor trailer. And it goes straight to the plant the next day. So most of the milk that's sitting on your store shelves is probably less than 48 hours old. And that's a pretty good testament to how efficient we are.
Summertime is not usually considered soup season, but Chef Tammy Brawley has a delicious mushroom bisque that's tasty any time of the year, in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. On today's Heart of the Home episode, we are going to do mushroom bisque. I absolutely love this recipe, very rich in flavor, and we're going to start with some butter in our pan that we'll turn on. When the butter melts, we're actually going to add some chopped shallots and some thyme. I find it very interesting that recipes that call for fresh thyme, they say to chop it first. I really don't see the necessity in that. One, because the leaves are so small, but two, I know I'm going to run an immersion blender or a stick blender through this, and it will chop it up even better. So I'm not really worried about chopping that thyme, no matter what the recipe says. What I've done here is I've actually chopped up some plain mushrooms here, button mushrooms as they're called, but you can use any mushroom you choose. If you choose to use dried mushrooms, which will give you a much richer flavor, I would rehydrate those perhaps in a beef or a chicken broth, and then when they're soft, you can continue on with the remaining part of the recipe. So right now what we've got is a pan with butter that is melting. I'm just going to kind of run a ladle through here to help that melt. We're going to saute the shallots and the thyme together. Once the shallots are soft, we're going to come back and add those mushrooms. Whenever you're scraping things off of your board, I love to give people this little bit of advice. Always turn your knife over to the dull or blunt side. Saves wear and tear on your knife, but it also saves wear and tear on your cutting boards. So we've scraped our shallots and our thyme into the pot. You can use an olive oil if you choose to in this. I personally just like to do butter. I love the way the butter reacts with the mushrooms. All right, so our shallots have become somewhat soft, and that's what I was looking for. Now I'm going to add the chopped mushrooms. They are going to cook a little bit, and they're actually going to release quite a bit of water. One of the things when you work with fresh mushrooms, if you're going to be sauteing them or even roasting them, you would want to wipe the dirt off with a wet paper towel. But in a soup, because we're going to be pureeing it with broth and sherry, it would be perfectly fine to rinse them off in a colander. All right, so our mushrooms are in. We're going to stir those around, and we're going to let these go for probably about 5 minutes or so until they release most of their water, if not all. All right, so our mushrooms have released the water, and they are somewhat soft at this point. Now we're going to come back and we're going to add some dry sherry, which gives it that nice rich flavor, and some chicken stock. We're going to do about 1/4 cup of sherry. And yes, you did see me use a ladle, all right? This is a 4-ounce ladle, or a 2-ounce ladle, excuse me, and that is 1/4 cup. So it's a perfect measure as well. We've got some chicken stock as well. Oh, yeah. And we're going to add a little salt and pepper, and we're going to let this simmer for about 3 to 5 minutes or so. All right, so our mushrooms have been simmering with sherry and chicken stock. We're now going to come back and we're going to puree them. I'm going to use a stick blender, and I realize a lot of people may not have one of these, but these are great. You could use a blender, a regular blender, but you want to be very, very careful when you're pureeing hot liquids into a regular blender. If we were to pretend for a moment that I had one, you would want to take the piece of plastic off of the top of the lid, and you would want to put a towel over the top, a tea towel or a dish towel, and you want to pulse what you are pureeing, because heat develops pressure, builds up pressure, and you could actually explode that top off if you weren't securing it with a towel. This is why I invested in a stick blender. I think it's great. Plus, I don't have to take things out of a pot into the blender, back into a pot or a bowl or such. We're actually going to puree it right in the pot here. So we have a stick blender, and we're going to turn it on. A bisque is typically pureed, and that's what we want to do here. We want to get this pureed. If you were more of a fan of a chunky soup, there's nothing wrong with that, then just don't puree it all the way. Now it's pureed pretty well. Now I'm going to come back with some half and half. You could use regular milk if you choose. You can use heavy cream. Heavy cream is going to give it a much richer flavor. Half and half, obviously half milk, half cream. Turn my heat off. All right, and there you have it, mushroom bisque. I'm Tammy Brawley with The Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Mushroom production is growing in the Old Dominion. In addition to outdoor varieties like shiitake mushrooms, many other varieties are easily raised indoors. About $761,000 worth of Virginia mushrooms were raised for commercial sale in 2017, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That was on 41 indoor operations covering almost 37,000 square feet of production space. With almost no fat, low calories, and many health-boosting vitamins and trace minerals, nutritionists consider mushrooms to be a valuable addition to anyone's diet. Many cooks use them as a substitute for meat in dishes.
Charlotte County was created in 1764. In this week's County Agricultural Close-Up, we'll learn that a rich historical tradition is just one advantage to living here.
Clark Poindexter has lived in Charlotte County his whole life. When he was younger, his family was involved in tobacco production, but over the years, and especially after the tobacco buyout, he and other farmers have transitioned to cattle and other crops, such as wheat, corn, and other grains. He's known since he was young that farming was for him.
It's good productive work. We see our results every year. It's gratifying in that aspect of it. It is a certain level of independence that's just inherently in farming.
Poindexter is one of several farmers implementing a mixed-use form of cattle grazing known as silvopasture. These trees are cut to form rows where cattle can roam in the open areas and get shade from the trees during the hot summer months. Miller Adams is another longtime county farmer whose day job is with the State Department of Forestry, another major player in Charlotte County's economy. He wants agriculture to be top of mind to everyone.
Agriculture has a tremendous story to tell, and I encourage everybody that's involved in it to tell their non-farming neighbors, because ultimately they are our customers of the products that we grow, regardless of whether it's a tomato sold at a vegetable stand or it's feeder calves that go to Pennsylvania to another realm of production.
Adams has also incorporated silvopasture in his farming.
The shade is so dispersed that they're not running to hunker down under the one shade tree that may happen to be out in the pasture.
Charlotte County is home to soft rolling hills and wide swaths of green pastures. It's the kind of place where you can see a tractor cutting grass in front of the volunteer fire station, while a short distance away an Amish man is driving a horse-drawn buggy. Another example of mixing the old and the new is the barn at Pineview, an agritourism site operated by Kerwin and Beverly Kunath. The facility is ideal for weddings and other large events, and they employed nearby Amish to help cut and build the support beams. Kerwin raises cattle and cuts hay and timber when he's not working on the barn. Farmers like him have had to adapt to tobacco having a smaller role now.
There's still a fair amount of tobacco. The production is way down from its heyday years ago, but still a fair amount of tobacco and beans. A lot of it switched over to beans and corn now, and getting away from tobacco. But it's a lot of cattle in the county too.
There are 460 farms in Charlotte County, covering 121,667 acres. The market value of all agricultural products is $25,976,000. Livestock leads the way, accounting for $16,166,000, with hogs and pigs bringing in $5,609,000. Cattle and calves make up most of the rest, at $4,425,000. Crops bring in $9,810,000. Grains account for $4,274,000. Tobacco is still a significant crop, earning $2,421,000 for growers. Hay and other crops bring in $1,579,000. Michael Carwile grows produce and flowers with his wife Amy on their Charlotte County farm. The two have an unusual story.
My wife is from Charlotte County. We were both widows, and we married, and we decided to stay on her farm instead of mine.
It's a decision that's paid off. Carwile says he's seen a 25% growth rate in his business.
To me, agriculture seems to be growing, and especially produce in Charlotte County. We've got a small produce cooperative here that we've started about 6 years ago, and some tobacco farmers and all are now growing produce. So we've grouped together and we're sending produce to different wholesale outlets. So a lot of tobacco production is being switched over to produce.
They also produce hay and raise a small number of cattle. It's an example of the diversity and adaptability Charlotte County producers have shown in shifting to new products. In Charlotte County, I'm Burke Mueller reporting.
We're so glad you could join us to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we're proud to say that this is real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little?
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.